We're popping in with something special, a behind-the-scenes look at the Fitgenes program. We know the terms like DNA, epigenetics, and nutrigenomics can feel new, maybe even a little intimidating. They can seem really complex and unfamiliar, and sometimes, yes, even a little scary. That's why we've created this mini-series to educate, reassure and give you a clear picture of why we're so passionate about genetic testing, why we believe it should be accessible to everyone, and of course, what you'll find inside our Fitgenes program. So let's unlock access to the conversations you'll find inside the program. Enjoy today's episode of the Fitgenes series. In this presentation, we will be talking through the Fitgenes Food Choice Report. Now, Lynsey, this covers all the stuff that I think some of us have preconceptions of what we may or may not be, what we might be allergic to, what we think we have an intolerance of, but this really spells it out very clearly for each and every one of us once we've had our Fitgenes test.
Absolutely. A lot of people will come in and they'll ask, well, what's the best diet for me? And honestly, you sort of have to answer, I don't know, until you do these sort of investigations where you can get a little bit more information about what your genetic predispositions might be or what your body may tolerate or not tolerate. So it's pretty cool.
It is to think that, our genes, our actual genetic makeup will show us how we react to lactose, to alcohol, to caffeine, our histamine levels. It's incredible that it's all there as a blueprint. Now we can fine tune what we do every day to make the best of what we were given.
Oh, it's just gathering the information that you need. So the one thing to try and explain to people is a lot of people have this misconception that if they have a negative response towards food, that it's a food allergy. And there's a very big difference between food allergies and food intolerances or sensitivities. So we know that if we do blood draws, anything that is an allergy, we look for IgE-mediated antibodies, and that's a stronger immune response. Whereas a lot of people will have, and a lot of these DNA tests will tell you whether you have those intolerance or sensitivities. It is also very much tied in with your gut health that we talk about very much so on the Aging Project, and you must try it. So we have to gather this information for you to be able to know exactly what your body will do best on.
Okay, so let's have a look. A food allergy is when your immune system and your genetic makeup says you're allergic to something. And intolerance is just when you might have or feel a little bit off when you eat something or perhaps have one small reaction.
Yeah, and it is very much dependent upon the state of your health and your gut health in particular, and what's getting into the system. Because essentially all we're supposed to absorb into our bloodstream is nutrients, magnesium, zinc, B12, all the sorts. If we start to get different food compounds crossing across the brush border in the small intestine into the blood, that's when, of course, our body will go, hang on a minute, that's not supposed to be here. And that's where we start to see these sensitivities and these intolerances. So I really like to marry up getting your genetic test as far as what your predispositions might be. And if you do a lot of work on your gut health in particular, it means that you are less likely to have any issues with those particular foods.
Okay, and the main categories that we'll cover today, obviously celiac, our lactose, alcohol, salt, histamine. So let's have a look firstly at the celiac risk disease. This will come up as a profile in your genetic makeup.
And anyone, probably by now in their life, if they have celiac disease, will have known by now because it's quite a strong immune response. It is classed as an autoimmune condition. So every time someone that has a genetic predisposition for celiac disease and it's activated, they will have a very, very strong response. They can get abdominal pain, diarrhea. You can get all sorts of really uncomfortable symptoms.
So it really doesn't matter how good your gut health is at this point. If you're a celiac, you are going to react to these foods.
Yeah, celiac means that you should not be having gluten in your diet, whereas there is a non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and that very much is tied in with your gut health. And so this test here specifically will allow you to understand what is your risk for this very strong reaction towards gluten.
Okay, the next one being lactose intolerance. Now, a lot of people, I'm allergic to milk.
Yes.
You may or may not be.
Yes, and there's two elements to milk, which I often talk about. There is lactose, which is actually the sugar complex found within milk and dairy products. And then there's casein, which is the protein complex. So this test here is trying to ascertain whether you have a predisposition for lactose intolerance, which just simply means that your body doesn't make the enzyme called lactase to break down lactose. But anyone who's lactose intolerant, again, you probably would be getting quite strong signs and symptoms when you have that ice cream that you're pretty much running to the toilet. But you may not have even correlated the two, and this test will give you that information.
Amazing. Amazing. This stuff fascinates me so much. All right. Alcohol intolerance. Now, again, something that you may not have tested until you were 18 plus, hopefully. But the way that alcohol reacts in your body is different for everybody. And your genetic makeup can tell you this.
Absolutely. And this is mainly focusing on our liver enzymes and the ability to break down ethanol into acetaldehyde, into acetate. So the reality is no one wants to hear it, but alcohol is a toxin. It's a fun toxin, I'm sure, for a lot of people. But our body has to have the means to be able to break it down into subcomponents and be able to eliminate it. Now, genetically, some people are better at that and some people are not. The people that don't break down alcohol very well get quite flushed in the skin and kind of get really kind of irritated. They will often have a lot stronger hangovers, and they can generally feel quite unwell every time they have alcohol.
So is it a matter of getting drunker faster, or is it just how your body actually reacts post drinking that would indicate whether you're allergic or intolerant or not?
It's just your body's inability to break it down and get it out of the system. Mm-hmm. So essentially, it kind of stays in the system a little bit longer if you have an alcohol intolerance, which, of course, knowing that it is a bit of a toxin, don't really want toxins staying in the body for too long. Mm-hmm. So that's where you will present as feeling unwell.
Okay, so it doesn't really matter on your height, weight, sex, how much you drink. If you're intolerant, you're intolerant.
Yeah, if your liver does not know how to break it down and it doesn't have those biochemical pathways working really well, probably shouldn't be in your life as often as it might be.
All right. And caffeine we'll go to next. Interesting, because again, some people say, I just don't like the taste of coffee, but caffeine is in so many beverages that we can find these days on the market.
Mm-hmm. And this is, again, focused in the liver health. So like I said, any of these sort of stimulants or toxins, the liver is the organ that has to process them. And we have two different phases of detoxification, phase 1 and phase 2. And depending upon the enzymes that are in there coded because of your genetics, it will allow your body to either eliminate caffeine quickly or, once again, not get it out of the system. And so the people that are more caffeine sensitive means that if they were to have a coffee past 12 o'clock, 1 or 2 in the afternoon, they probably wouldn't sleep because it's still in the system. Whereas some people, my husband being one of them, he can seem to drink coffees 7 o'clock at night and go to bed. Don't know how he does that, but he can.
It must be genetic, because my husband, again, as you say, with Italian backgrounds, can have espressos all night and doesn't sleep anyways. But yes, genetics, amazing. Okay, moving on to salt sensitivity now.
Mm-hmm. So salt is one that we need it, but the form of the salt is really, really important. So what we want to bring attention to is the salt that is most detrimental to your health is the one that is often found in processed packaged foods. This can be things like cured deli meats and chips and crackers and processed foods. It's a different type of salt, which is basically one that is made in a lab, whereas mineral salts that are found amongst the earth, a little bit different. But again, we still have to look at this layer of our health, which is our genetic predisposition. So we will have a propensity to not handle salt well. And that means that when you do have salt, you can get an increase in blood pressure, which of course is not a good condition to have. So this is really, really important information to help guide you on what type of foods that you should have and how much salt you should have. We don't recommend more than, believe it or not, a teaspoon per day, which equates to about 2,000 milligrams. But when you think about it, a teaspoon isn't much. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure that you're using your salt really wisely.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people cut salt out of their cooking altogether. But as you can see here on our charts, that you're getting salt in so many of the other foods that we may eat, and obviously not that great quality that you can when you're sprinkling mineral salts on top of your dinner at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, what you'll notice on this table is a lot of the ones that are high sodium foods, they're processed in some way, meaning that's really the element of where you get hidden salt. It's not as much of an issue when you're just cooking with pure whole foods made from Mother Nature and then you're deciding to add a tiny little bit after the fact. I think where a lot of people don't realize they're getting sodium is in all these lists of foods that are a little bit more processed.
Okay. And histamine intolerance. Now, again, we see the ads on the telly for antihistamines, and the minute someone mows the grass, pop an antihistamine. I'm getting watery eyes, I'll have an antihistamine. Obviously, this is a part of our biological makeup, but something we probably don't know about those triggers as much.
So histamine, the easiest way to understand it is a very powerful molecule. It is part of our immune system. So it's not all bad. It's our mechanism to try and eliminate something out of the body that the body perceives as potentially detrimental. So we need it, but when people have an intolerance, it means that genetically they will probably have a SNP in one that's called the DAO enzyme. And the DAO enzyme helps us break down histamine. So our body always has this balance point as it releases histamine, but it has a mechanism to be able to break it down. There are some people that just don't break it down. And if they make a lot of choices in their diet and in their lifestyle that is driving histamine up, that's when they're going to have a big problem as well. So it can present itself often in allergy type symptoms, itchy eyes, watery nose, hives, skin conditions. That's really a very strong histamine response.
So that's something that we can manage through our dietary choices?
Absolutely. So someone that has a histamine intolerance, we would probably recommend to them that while they're suffering more acute symptoms, quite strong symptoms, that you go on a lower histamine diet. You do again, and I know I'm going on and on again about gut health, but histamine is actually released out of mast cells that are in the gut barrier. Do a bit of gut work to calm that system down, and then you can probably bring in certain foods that might increase histamine, but your tolerance will be better.
Okay, well, let's take a look at what food allergies in general are going to do to our system. And obviously, once we know what we're predisposed to, what our genetics are saying, we can then come up with a really tailored plan to manage our allergies or even our intolerances, because obviously this is still the green, orange and red light system.
Yeah, absolutely. So the important thing to understand about food allergies, again, they're the stronger immune response. We have the 10, big foods that we tend to notice spike more allergenic responses, which are things like peanuts, as well as milk, eggs, wheat, soy, all those sort of things. But there are a huge range of other ones that you can also identify. This particular test is really, really detailed on a few of the biggest ones, which is amazing because they're the common foods that every single person tends to eat. So when you find out this information, it's going to be ultimately lowering your immune burden, which when we talk about aging, which we do a lot on the Aging Project, we know that aging is inflammaging. So if we can do anything to lower our inflammation over our lifetime, that's a really, really good thing. And that is ultimately what this test is about, is gathering the information that is very individual to be able to make changes in your life to be preventative and lower inflammation.
Okay, just stop aggravating our bodies on purpose. All right, so here's mine. Lyns, let's go through.
Yes. Anything a shock here, Shelley?
Yes, the celiac. I had no idea that I might have moderately increased level of celiac disease. I've never considered myself intolerant to anything with gluten in it, but we'll certainly take note of that. So that, for me, only being an orange light there might be just having gluten-free pizza bases, for example, as opposed to full wheat. Or, of course, I don't eat a lot of bread anyway, but being more aware that that's going to be a trigger for me not to feel great.
I think it's more if you're in the moderate category where you're using that traffic light system, it's just being mindful. It's not that you have to avoid it completely, but you'll probably be making better choices in the type of wheat that you have, probably more the lines of higher quality sourdough. If you are in the red, however, it is suggested that you do try and avoid it. The challenge again is that wheat is one of those things that's kind of hidden in every processed packaged food. They have it in sauces and condiments and ice creams, as well as the standard breads and crackers. It's just, I think a lot of it is because in so many foods. But if you're really eating whole foods and then just being mindful of the gluten content, it shouldn't be an issue for you in particular.
That's really interesting. Lactose is an interesting one. My mum said, "Oh, of course, yes. You've always been lactose intolerant." I said,
Okay.
"I'm 48. When were you going to tell me?"
But do you avoid it, Shelley, naturally? Like I thought.
Yes, I just look, unless it's in a beautiful chocolate milkshake, I will avoid lactose anyway. I just don't like it. Having said that, obviously love my cheeses, which are going to have lactose in them, aren't they?
A lot less, though. The main culprit here, if people come up in this test, kind of similar to you, where they do have a red and the lactose intolerance, it tends to be milk in particular. So there are different levels of lactose and casein in things like your butters and cheeses, which tend to be a lot lower. So I would always start people going, look, the one food that you should probably be mindful of is probably dairy milk in particular, and start maybe removing that first and see how your body feels.
Yeah, look, when I was younger, I could not say no to a chocolate thick shake. I just couldn't do it.
Of course.
And knowing that I would feel so bloated, but I went, oh, I just feel full and content. But now that I know, oh, no, you were completely bloated and obviously highly intolerant.
Your body was going, no.
Yes. Now alcohol, obviously. There I have a red and a green.
Yes. So you're kind of in some ways, there's a good and then a not so great one there. How do you feel when you have alcohol, though?
Oh, look, I don't drink a lot now anyway. Yes, always, I guess when you look back on it, you never really know whose hangover is worse than anybody else's, or how soft you are, in inverted commas. So whether you can get up and be, productive the next day. But yes, that makes a lot of sense. If you're sort of borderline there, again, my husband bounces back amazingly well. So I'm assuming he'll have 2 green lights there, which, again, gives me no leg to stand on, does it?
No, maybe don't. Yeah, whether you want to find that information out or not, we'll have to see. But yeah, it's one of those ones that you just you look at what your body's telling you, and then you just make the best decision that you can. Most of the time. There's obviously, here in Australia, it's a very big cultural aspect of drinking alcohol, and every once in a blue moon, when you have a celebration, if this is something like your results, I wouldn't worry about it. But in general, if it becomes a daily or weekly thing, that's when we go, well, the liver's going to be struggling a little bit to process it.
And more so, again, not just how I'm feeling, but how my body is actually processing that. And if my liver's struggling, that's not something that I ever want to burden myself with. All right. Caffeine there, I've got a little bit, but again,
not much.
No.
Yeah, not too bad.
And it's great being in the position we are with the Aging Project, that we've almost modified all these things over the last 3 years of my life anyway, with the learnings that I've had from the experts that we've had on board. So yes, obviously my bulletproof coffees, where I'm wrapping the caffeine in lots of good fats, so it's probably not having the same effect on my body it is if you do just have an espresso.
Yes, absolutely. So it slows down that caffeine release in your body anyway when you're adding things like MCT or ghee or something like that. So that's a really, really good way to kind of dampen down potential issues with caffeine. So yeah, nothing that you need to worry too bad about on that department.
But when you think about it, a good old flat white would have been doing me a heck of a lot of damage.
Well, I wouldn't say with you a heck of a lot of damage, because you haven't got any red there. Whereas, look, I'll divulge mine. I'm not good on coffee. I'm jittery. I'm all over the place. My whole body is just kind of like, oh my gosh, because it is a stimulant. It can help enhance focus. And like I said, and this is the cool thing about it, is when people have that question again, is coffee good or bad for me? Once again, it's really hard to give that answer because we're all so different. We are genetically different and our biology is very different. So for some people that have green in caffeine sensitivity, then that's where you can get the benefits of coffee. That can help with focus. It can help with cognition. It can help give you a little bit of energy. But for those people that would be in the red, and that's not you, Shelley, but those that are in the red, you're only going to get the detrimental effects of coffee. And that's what I'm saying is this is such a cool, I mean, this is why I love genetic testing. You can really find the answers that your body is telling you. And the one person we should always listen to is your body.
That's right. So here with my salts, obviously no salt sensitivity there, but someone who was in the red there, what would their body be doing in that process?
Well, they would probably have an issue with blood pressure. So every time you had a decent intake of processed salt, it probably would increase your blood pressure. Not that people walk around with a blood pressure monitor on them all the time. So they probably wouldn't recognize that. But long-term blood pressure is really not good for our cardiovascular health. And that's where finding out information about your salt sensitivity is such a great thing to do.
So I'm feeling good about that one then.
Yes.
Histamine's interesting. I'm all in the orange here. So I guess that means I'm just sort of in the middle.
Yeah. So that means that you have one genetic SNP from one parent. So I don't know if you might ask questions about was anyone a little bit more allergic or sensitive to things than other. That's probably the parent that you would have gotten your genetic SNP from, but you're sitting in the orange across that. So that DAO enzyme that I was mentioning, it just means that you have a slight impairment in breaking down histamine, which just means that if you decided to go nuts on a charcuterie board with lots of deli meats and cured foods and processed packaged crackers and things like that, your body might go, whoa, hang on, I'm going to struggle to break down the histamine as a result of it.
Right, and that might show up as a, blocked nose or watery eyes or just
skin
feeling
issues. Yep. Or like I said, can present itself in different ways for different people.
So people that were in the green there, they could obviously go out in spring, they could mow the lawn or the like, they could be stung by insects and have no real reaction, drink lots of red wine and have no reaction. And anyone who's in the red, the minute that the weather turns, they suddenly get a runny nose, they get watery eyes, their skin gets itchy.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. They just tend to be the canary in the coal mine. We all know someone that just seems to be really, really sensitive physiology. Those are the people that probably have issues on the last two, which would be the histamine intolerance and the food allergy side of things.
And looking here, you can be one and not the other, which is interesting. You sort of think if you've got one, chances are you'll have the other, but that's not necessarily the case.
No, and that's what I'm saying is we just have such a diverse difference in our genetic predisposition. So yeah, when it comes to the food allergies there, Shelley, a lot of green, which is great. It means that you don't have to be quite as conscious of worrying about those particular type of food groups that could cause a problem.
Which again were your peanuts, eggs, shellfish.
Yep, all your dairy, gluten, those sort of things. Like it'll be specific, and you've got a little bit on the celiac disease, so gluten would be one that you're mindful of. But yeah, there's not as high predisposition for you to be that hypersensitivity to your food.
Look, again, all just great information, which makes me make smarter choices, even when I'm just, choosing what I'm going to have for lunch. Now that I know this, there's things that I will avoid because I have the power to do that. And again, so easily explained with you on board, Lynsey, of course, and the Fitgenes test itself, that green, orange, red system makes it very easy to understand.
Absolutely.
We hope you enjoyed today's conversation and that it answered a few more of your questions and perhaps helped you understand why DNA testing is such a powerful tool for your own individual health, because your genes truly are the foundation of your health. If you're ready to begin your DNA discovery, visit theagingproject.com and sign up for our free DNA webinar. It is the perfect place to start. Thank you so much for listening. Stay well, and I'll talk to you soon.